Folks, Black Star Network is here.
Hold no punches.
I'm real revolutionary right now.
Support this man, Black Media. He makes sure that our stories are told.
Thank you for being the voice of Black America, Roland.
Stay black. I love y'all.
All momentum we have now, we have to keep this going.
The video looks phenomenal.
See, there's a difference between Black Star Network and Black-owned media and something like CNN.
You can't be Black-owned media and be scared.
It's time to be smart.
Bring your eyeballs home.
You dig? Folks, today is Tuesday, January 27th, 2026, coming up on Roland Martin Unfiltered, streaming live on the Black Star Network. Donald Trump's top Border Patrol commander is out as the Border Czar is taking over. A Minneapolis Councilwoman will let us know whether this is a welcome change of the guard. The Department of Justice, they're dropping the pursuit to arrest journalist Don Lemon and others who protested in a church. Democratic leaders are calling for the termination and impeachment of Homeland Security Secretary Kirsti Noem. She's now complaining that when she made those comments about Alex Preddy, though, that's what Stephen Miller told her to say. Attorney General Pam Bondi sends a threatening letter to Minnesota Governor Tim Walz demanding and setting conditions for the Trump administration to crack down on ICE agents in Minnesota. A study from St. Louis University shows the impact of long-term discrimination and trauma affecting African Americans. It spans more than any other demographic. Plus, longtime Washington, D.C. Congresswoman Eleanor Holmes Norton retires after 36 years of being the DC's representative on Capitol Hill. Lots to talk about. It's time to bring the funk on Roland Martin Unfiltered on the Black Star Network. Let's go.
He's got whatever the miss, he's on it. Whatever it is, he's got the scoop, the fact, the find. And when it breaks, he's right on time and it's rolling. Best believe he's knowing. Putting it down from sports to news to politics. With entertainment just for kicks, he's rolling. It's on go, y'all. It's Roland Martin, rolling with Roland now. He's funk, he's fresh, he's real, the best, you know he's Roland Martin.
All right, Donald Trump and his imps are showing signs of retreat after federal immigration agents descended upon Minnesota late last year. As we said yesterday, top Border Patrol official Gregory Bovino and several of his agents have left Minneapolis to return to their respective jobs. The leadership switch comes after the murder of U.S. citizen Alex Preddy. White House Border Czar Tom Homeland is expected to oversee ICE operations in the city. It's a welcome change for Minneapolis. City Councilwoman Latricia Vita joins us right now. Congresswoman, glad to have you on the show. Listen, the White House realizes they've screwed up. They realize that they have been getting nailed, public opinion polling, all against them. Fox News also criticizing them as well. So what do you make of this decision? Is it going to satisfy folks in Minneapolis?
Thank you for having me first, Roland. And I'm sure if we don't have 3,000 agents in our city, folks will be somewhat satisfied. What we've been arguing for is that it's not safe here. And the number of agents that have been in our city has been causing so many problems.
Well, you said 3,000. They're only removing a few. They're not removing those 3,000. So are you saying that Minneapolis is saying, hey, until all these folks are gone, hey, we're not going to be happy?
So we heard that they brought 3,000 in, and I think that's what we're asking. Remove the untrained officers that you have here that are wreaking havoc on our city. I don't know how many are leaving. I spoke with the mayor yesterday. He didn't have a number. I'm sure that'll come out soon, but we don't know how many are going to be removed at this point.
The mayor's also made it clear that Minneapolis, they will not be participating when it comes to federal immigration laws. You've got some moderate to center-right Democrats say, oh, that's the wrong position to take. Why are they wrong and the mayor's right?
So I think what the mayor is saying is that, we don't want these criminals that they say they're targeting in our cities. And we want to know who those people are. We want to know who you're looking for and where you're going to get them from, right? Not that Minneapolis police will be going. We have very few resources in Minneapolis with the police department since the murder of George Floyd. And our police officers are saying they're exhausted with what's going on in the city. So I don't think the mayor wants to further, or none of us want to further exhaust our police department for helping with ICE agents.
So do you expect the protest to continue? Do you expect the pressure to remain on ICE, Border Patrol, these federal law enforcement agents, as long as they are in Minneapolis?
So I was, the temperament has settled a little bit, Roland, in Minneapolis for what it was on Saturday and then on Sunday. Yesterday, when the president and the mayor and the governor and the president had conversations around removing some of these agents, I think the temperature settled a little bit. And so I don't know that anyone would ever stop protesting in Minneapolis, but I do, and in Minnesota, because they're not just here in Minneapolis, they're in our entire state. And so I don't know that that will ever stop, but I do know that removing these 3,000 officers would, people will feel relieved.
Again, the Trump people keep saying, "Oh, our aim is to remove criminals." But if you look at the people they're arrested, their own data shows that's not who they're removing. And so I keep saying this is all about a television show. This is all about we're going to show this brute force and show the people who voted for us we mean business by these tough tactics against folks.
Yeah, I mean, we're not seeing that. Even with my own personal experience, I know people that have been taken by ICE, and they're not these criminals that they said they were going to be picking up. And we're seeing little Liam, who got picked up in the suburb of Minneapolis, and we know that that's not what's happening, and that's what we want to be clear about. None of us in this state want the people who they say they're coming to get. What we don't want them doing is attacking everyday folks. We don't want them pulling people over, asking them for documents, and then taking them into ICE custody. We don't want them knocking door to door. We don't want people being picked up on their jobs and at the grocery stores. We want to know who they're looking for and where they're located.
I'm going to bring my panel right now. Joining me on my panel is Dr. Mustafa Santiago Ali, former senior advisor for environmental justice at the EPA. He joins us out of Washington, D.C. Randy Brown, entrepreneur, author, speaker, creator of The Truthing Game out of D.C. Dr. Larry J. Walker, associate professor, University of Central Florida out of Orlando. Glad to have all three of you here. Larry, you're first. Your question for the Councilwoman.
Yeah, Councilwoman, thanks for appearing this evening. Can you talk a little bit? We've heard a lot about, individuals who you just highlighted, who are U.S. citizens who are being picked up and dropped off at various locations. Is there any kind of, funding available that you sought through the city council and working with the mayor to make sure individuals who find themselves, the doors kicked in or other challenges dropped off in places, other parts of the city, will you provide people with some kind of funding in terms of helping them adjust?
So the city has not, thank you for the question, Doctor. So no, the city has not helped with funding, but what has happened in Minneapolis and surrounding suburbs is neighbors have stepped up to help. There's been a lot of collection of money to help with rent. In the ward that I represent, someone's door was knocked down, and within an hour, neighbors had the door repaired. So I would say community is rallying around each other right now to help out with those things. Lots of food deliveries are being coordinated for folks who are scared to come outside. Rides are given to people to work who need to get to work, and their children to get to school also.
Mustafa.
Yes, I'm always curious about the impacts to children, especially when they have to deal with traumatic situations. I'm curious about the steps that you all put in place for, the children. One, to help them to better understand what's going on, but two, I'm sure there are a number of children who don't feel comfortable in being able to go to school or to a number of other locations. So how are you all navigating that?
Thank you for the question. So the school system, the public school system in Minneapolis went to a hybrid model about a month ago, maybe at the beginning of this month. So children who don't feel comfortable coming to school don't have to go to school. They can learn from home, and kids who still want to go to school can. And you made a good point around the trauma and the impacts this have on children. I know here at the city of Minneapolis, we funded lots of organizations around trauma grants, and they've reached out to a lot of the families who have impacted and provided services. There's a lot of services in Minneapolis in particular that are being utilized by our families, not only for the children, but the parents also.
Randy?
I know that mainstream media has blocked a lot of the news, the real news coming out of the state. But when we've become to rely on these independent journalists, people on social media, have they contacted you, the officials, to be interviewed or to participate in the conversation that's going on, since it has to be done through non-traditional means?
Absolutely. I don't think I've gotten more media requests for something happening in the city. I've been elected in the city of Minneapolis for 8 years, and I think this topic, people are reaching out. People want to hear the stories. When I'm out on different scenes, when things are happening, people are there and they're asking questions from local folks, and I'm really proud of that.
Thank you.
Thank you.
We also have this here. The Department of Justice, they've withdrawn the request for an arrest warrant for journalist Don Lemon, along with 4 others involved in the Minnesota church protest. The DOJ initially made the request after a Minnesota judge refused to approve criminal complaints against several individuals involved in the protests, including Lemon. The investigation remains open, but the DOJ may still pursue a case against Don Lemon, including a grand jury indictment. He's predicted that he's on his podcast, the DOJ likely would try to bring charges against him. Councilwoman, your thoughts on this action, this determination by the Department of Justice?
Yeah, so I've never seen anything like this. This is definitely unprecedented action. And one of the persons who was arrested that went into the church, I actually represent on the council. I know her very well, and I haven't had a chance to talk to her yet. I've still been reaching out, trying to figure out how I can help as a council member, but I've never seen anything like this. So it's going to be interesting to see how this plays out.
All right, then. We'll surely appreciate it. Thanks a bunch, and good luck there in Minneapolis.
Thank you.
Folks, several Democrats are calling for the firing of Ice Barbie Kirsti Noem, or they would like to launch impeachment proceedings against the Homeland Security Secretary in response to the weekend killing of Alex Preddy in Minneapolis. Democratic Senator John Fetterman from Pennsylvania posted this in social media. Donald Trump, I make a direct appeal to immediately fire Secretary Noem. Americans have died. She's betraying DHS's core mission and trashing your border security legacy. Do not make the mistake President Biden made for not firing a grossly incompetent DHS secretary. Today, House Democratic leader Hakeem Jeffries, Democratic Whip Catherine Clark, and Democratic Caucus Chair Pete Aguilar issued the following statement about Noem. Taxpayer dollars are being weaponized by the Trump administration to kill American citizens, brutalize communities, and violently target law-abiding immigrant families. The country is disgusted by what the Department of Homeland Security has done. Republicans are planning to shut large parts of the government down on Friday so that the DHS killing spree unleashed in Minnesota can continue throughout America. That is immoral. Dramatic changes at the Department of Homeland Security are needed. Federal agents who have broken the law must be criminally prosecuted. The paramilitary tactics must cease and desist. Taxpayer dollars should be used to make life more affordable for everyday Americans, not kill them in cold blood. The violence unleashed on the American people by the Department of Homeland Security must end forthwith. Kirsti Noem should be fired immediately, or we will commence impeachment proceedings. Put the statement back up, please. Impeachment proceedings in the U.S. House of Representatives. We can do this the easy way or the hard way. That is the full statement coming from Democratic leaders in the House. Now, Axios has a report talking about the blame game that's going on. They use this language claiming that Alex Preddy was trying to massacre federal agents. This is their story right here. Well, Homeland Security Secretary Kirsti Noem, she's being blamed for that, but she is saying that guess what? She got thrown under the bus because that stuff was dictated to her by Stephen Miller. Let me go to my panel, Mustafa. Everybody in this administration look like they're playing cover your ass.
Yeah, well, I work for a number of administrations, and the buck stops with the leadership. When you do something well, of course, you give credit to the people who work for you. And if something goes wrong, you have to take the responsibility for it. This administration has a very difficult time in accepting responsibility for some of the most egregious things we've ever seen in the history of our country, or at least in the 19th and 20th centuries. It's just amazing. And it is also because we've literally got people who are dying. Some folks have called some of these situations murder. Some people have called them executions. When you look at some of the videotape, I mean, that's up for folks to make some decisions for themselves. But when I look at these individuals and them also, pushing back on folks who are asking for, more transparency and more accountability, we remember those words that said, the dead cannot cry out for justice. Only the living can do that. So when you see folks on Capitol Hill, asking for responsibility and accountability, when you see folks who are in the streets and folks who are in community who are saying these types of things can no longer go on, that should be a clear message to this administration that not only are people watching, but people are also expecting things to change.
Randy.
I don't think anybody's surprised that the wolves are eating the wolves. Of course, the blame game is going to start. I mean, they're going to start pointing fingers at one another, but they're all working together. None of them have a conscience, and this is exactly what they wanted. And so, yes, I guess it would show some sort of accountability if we got rid of Noem, but the entire administration orchestrated and wanted what we're seeing today. This is something that everybody has blessed, from Trump all the way down. And so she's just a figurehead. So if she's removed, I don't think much will change whatsoever. And I think that the only hope that we have is that when they are pointing at each other, I like to see the weakness within the administration, that they are, showing some cracks. And that does bode well for us in the long run.
Larry.
Yeah, I think Randy hit on some very important points, particularly, listen, the calls coming from inside the House, in this case, the West Wing. She, like Randy said, she's a figurehead. This is not going to change the administration's policies as it relates to how they view those who immigrated here, those who are undocumented, and U.S. citizens who from racial ethnic backgrounds in particular. So we see that, the civic activism is working, it's applying pressure. And if we continue to do that, then maybe we will see a dramatic shift in the administration's policies. But the reality is they'll fire her or get rid of her, and then just put another person in there who will do
you know
exactly
why
what
I
they're
wasn't
supposed to do. So we have to make sure that we continue to apply pressure. But this is just, once again, another example of individuals, taking the blame. But the reality is these priorities are being set by the White House.
Randy, when you talk about cruel, you talk about shameful behavior. That absolutely describes Megyn Kelly. And she really is a despicable human being. And so listen to what this idiot had to say regarding the murder of Alex Preddy.
I know I'm supposed to feel sorry for Alex Preddy, but I don't. Do you know why I wasn't shot by Border Patrol this weekend? Because I kept my ass inside and out of their operations. It's very simple. If I felt strongly enough about something the government was doing that I would go out and protest, I would do it peacefully on the sidewalk without interfering, via a whistle, via shouting, via my body, via any other way. I would make my objections known by standing there without interfering, because interfering is where you go south. And laying hands on a police officer trying to, or Border Patrol officer or ICE officer trying to conduct a law enforcement operation is a felony. And now you are going to get arrested. And if you do anything that resembles resisting, you're in serious trouble.
My goodness, Randy, what a trash individual.
She is absolutely vile. But what I will say about her is that she is consistent. And how dare she blame the victim? It's not the first time we've seen people do this. I mean, this is common in the Black community where police enforcement kills one of us and then makes us a victim before our bodies even start to cool. That she's trying to blame a man who was protesting peacefully, tried to get in the way and protect two other women, that she is blaming Preddy and calling him the aggressor. And even if he did, let's just say that he did do something wrong. Did he have to be killed? Was murder the right answer? Her heart is cold and dark and stone and just black. And I don't see heaven opening their doors for that woman.
Well, what's crazy to me is you have these people, Mustafa, who have these double standards. You got Donald Trump saying, he shouldn't have come to the protest with a gun. I'm sorry, that ain't what y'all said about some other stuff. And this is who these people are. It's amazing how they want to sit here and start just changing things up. And this is what they do. And so it's like, y'all just want to create these whole new worlds. And again, this woman has no compassion, no desire, no nothing. And she's just, again, she's just crass, trash. And this is how the right wing operates.
Yeah, well, karma always finds a way of circling back around in lots of different ways. And you're not going to change these folks. Some of it may be truly what they believe. Others, they're trying to be a part of the rating system, and they'll continue to try and go down to the lowest common denominator and how they report. It is interesting, though. So we all have eyes, but yet they expect us not to be able to conceptualize the things that we actually see. We know that he was not being an aggressor. He was actually protecting a woman, something that my father and grandfather taught me to do. The other part of it was that, when you have an individual like Kyle Rittenhouse who brought, a semi-automatic weapon and had it out and walking down the street, they thought that was fine. So there is this double standard that exists, and, we have to call it out. But we also have to make sure that we're using the tools that we have to address some of this stuff. One of it is to continue. The Constitution allows us to stand there, to protest peacefully, to record, all the various things that you do in a nonviolent way of engaging. And then the other side of it is, as we talk about time and time again, is that when you have the opportunity to actually vote, remember these situations and then vote accordingly. And if you don't, you're going to continue to get what you get.
Larry?
So, Roland, I'm not sure what Bible verse or verses she's citing when she talks about another human being losing their life. We hear this conversation about, the importance of Christianity. We know certainly in the Black community how important it is. But these folks, their idea of what is fairness is shifts. And a lot of this is centered, even though the victim is white, is centered on white supremacy. We know this, right? This idea of gun rights for you, but not gun rights for others. And like I said, in this situation, it was as a white male was killed. But as Randy highlighted and Mustafa, listen, Black folks have been dealing with this issue as it relates to, government-sponsored violence for generations. Now it's shifted to those individuals whose ideologies may not match the White House and some of these other state officials. So now, people understand that we're all at risk. But the bottom line is when you hear, these kind of points about an individual losing their life and the way she explains it and is dismissive of the importance of civil rights, you get an idea of what kind of people you're dealing with. And once again, if we don't call it out, then they will continue this. The other thing is, Roland, we have to remember, as a pundit, she's speaking to a very specific audience who agrees with what she says. So we should be mindful when we hear this kind of nonsense.
Absolutely. All right, folks. Got to go to a break. We'll be right back. Roland Martin Unfiltered on the Black Star Network.
y'all. Welcome to The Other Side of Change, only on the Black Star Network and hosted by myself, Bria Baker, and my good sis, Jamira Burley. We are just two millennial women tackling everything at the intersection of politics, gender, and pop culture.
And we don't just settle for commentary. This is about solution-driven dialogue to get us to the world as it could be and not just as it is.
Watch us on the Black Star Network, so tune in to The Other Side of Change.
Violent white supremacy is, quote, the most persistent and lethal threat in the homeland.
The greatest terrorist threat to the homeland is the homegrown violence stream, including hate crime committed on behalf of some kind of white supremacist ideology.
They are coming after everything in Black America. MAGA and Donald Trump are specifically targeting Black America. They are going after the money. Attack Black Lives Matter. Attack critical race theory, attack woke, DEI. MAGA wants to defund Black America. This is a perfect example of their desire to completely degrade and de-emphasize Black people.
What's up? It's your girl, Tamika D. Mallory, and you are watching the Black Star Network.
All right, folks, let's talk about this absolutely crazy Department of Justice. Using the threat of continued ICE operations as leverage against Minnesota. On Saturday, Republican Attorney General Pam Bondi sent a letter to Minnesota Governor Tim Walz just hours after Alex Preddy was killed during an ICE operation. The message was clear. Hand over Minnesota's voter data, share state medical and food assistance records, and publicly support ICE officers and Trump administration may end immigration enforcement in the state. In the letter, Bondi claimed the federal government needs access to this information to ensure the state's practices comply with the law. Minnesota lawmakers basically are like, kiss my ass, call this extortion. These people literally are stupid, Randy.
They're absolutely stupid, but they are absolutely extortionists. The Department of Justice is supposed to be a neutral arm, but this Department of Justice is clearly working to be the henchmen of Donald Trump and this administration. They are threatening people. What they're saying is either you do this, give us over our vote, the voter information. If you want to have just a decent place for people to live, if you want us to stop abusing the people that live in Minnesota. I mean, it is something like the mob that's running our country right now. And I'm glad that people are standing up and saying, absolutely not. We're not going to do it. I mean, why do they want the information of who was on public assistance, that votes? Why do they want our driver's license information, if not to continue to cheat and to abuse the constituents in Minnesota? So I hope they do continue to fight back against what is absolute extortion.
Larry, I just sit here and go, so y'all think, wait, I love this here. Give us all this data and we might take them out.
Yeah, this is basically, Roland, this administration's approach to everything is give it to us or you'll feel the pain. But it would also highlight that, Roland, this is no longer a democracy. This is now an authoritarian government. Because in the past, no DOJ would have sent this kind of letter to the state demanding data and this kind of, voter data, et cetera, and explicitly saying it. But then on top of that, like you said, say, well, look, if you do what we tell you to do, then you'll be okay. And I think Randy's point is good. This reminds me of something like the movie Goodfellas that came out, back in the day. You're extorting states. And, I think the other thing is to keep in mind is that the Trump administration is not, I know they've lost a lot in court, but they don't fear going to court. You know, and I think one of the reasons why is the Supreme Court has turned a blind eye to a lot of these illegal policies. But once again, extorting states by explicitly saying do this or is not consistent with a democracy. And it's important that we make sure that, I mean, obviously Minnesota said no, but the other states continue to stay steadfast and not provide them with some of this data, even though I know some red states have already.
Mustafa.
I mean, there are a number of states that have their own sets of laws to be able to, you know, not have to follow the directive from the Department of Justice, and of course, which is coming from the White House. You have the federal 1974 Federal Privacy Act, which also creates some protections that are there. I mean, I know the law doesn't mean a whole lot to this administration unless they're trying to utilize it, but there are tools that are there to address some of this. Just like we use to deal with the mob, and we deal with, you know, a number of other nefarious characters. There are some tools that are out there, but the ultimate tool lies in the hands of the people, being able to push back and to be able to make sure they understand that these types of actions are not going to be accepted. And of course, November is not that far away. So we have to make sure they understand that we have power, and you got to get together and figure out how you're going to use that power.
Absolutely. All right, folks, the Virginia legislature, they have approved a constitutional amendment that will go to the voters for them to vote on whether or not they can actually change their district. So this is actually the vote here in the Senate. Give me 1 second. I want to show you here. This was yeas 21, nays 18 for this constitutional amendment. Now, here's the problem, though. Today, a state judge ruled that they actually did this thing wrong, and saying they actually can't have this election. They said that they're going to appeal this particular ruling to the state Supreme Court. So this takes some of the wind out of their sails on this particular issue. And this is what the Speaker of the House of Virginia said, Don Scott. Today's ruling won't deter us. Republicans who can't win at the ballot box are abusing the courts to sow confusion and block Virginians from voting. We will appeal immediately, and we expect to prevail. Voters, not politicians, will have the final say. The reason this is critically important is because it impacts the 2026 midterm elections. That is huge. You see what this all started, Larry, with Republicans, Donald Trump demanding to come up with 5 seats in Texas. That kicked this whole thing off. And Virginia's talking about 10-1, wiping out Republicans in the state and having 10 Democrats elected statewide and only 1 Republican.
Yeah, Roland, I'm glad you mentioned how all of this started with a demand from the executive branch, and a lot of states, and you know, we talked about Texas a lot, have, you know, already made those changes. And so this is a setback. It'll be interesting to see what happens with the appeal, but this is critical, you know, because, you know, some other states have already taken the necessary steps to change their to redistrict and change their maps. And so you highlighted, Roland, as the election comes, you know, at the end of this year, what will the House look like in terms of numbers, and will, you know, we have the opportunity to see Democrats take control? And obviously things in the Senate are a lot more up in the air. But this is critical decision here, and I'm looking forward to find over the next couple of weeks, months, to find out what happens with the appeal process. But hopefully, as Scott mentioned, hopefully Democrats prevail on this issue.
This is what this judge, a judge on the Tazewell Circuit Court, ruled. This is a political story here. He said that Democrats, Randy, did not follow the right procedure to approve the proposed constitutional amendment that would allow for the last-minute redraw of the state's lines. He also said, the judge here said that Democrats used the still open special session. They were not allowed because early voting in last year's elections had already begun, and state law requires the legislature to pass proposed constitutional amendments both before and after an election. Hurley also ruled that the proposed constitutional amendment was not properly noticed in state courts. And so he's ruling this based upon a technicality. The judge also noted that lawmakers in the special session passed a procedural resolution along party lines with the Democratic-controlled legislature delivering the decisive votes for the resolution's passage. Because lawmakers did not vote unanimously, as is required under the legislature's own rules, and did not pass it by a 2/3 Senate majority, it was a violation of the rules governing a special session. So we'll see exactly how this turns out. But Randy, Democrats said they are going to definitely appeal this decision.
And they must appeal the decision. We know, I mean, the Republicans have been very open that essentially they're going to try to stack the election as much as they can, and as they always have, because they know if an election is run fairly, that the Democrats will prevail. So the Democrats have to, it behooves us to ensure that we have a counterattack, and we're ensuring that we do take over the House. We have to. So I'm going to be watching very closely in Virginia and all of these states where similar things are happening to secure these elections, these elections are done also fairly.
Mustafa?
Well, it always goes down to fair maps. I keep talking about that all the time. In this situation, the Republicans are the ones that brought, who started the ball rolling. And I'm pretty confident that when folks went into the war room to decide that they wanted to move down this road, they ran all the various scenarios. They understood what was needed in this moment. But again, we'll see how it all plays out. Anytime you're dealing with the courts, you're never going to be 100% sure about anything.
I do want to talk about this here. And I've raised this a number of times. I don't think people really understand. We talk about population shifts in this country. You look at to be elected. It's look. You win the popular vote in the state. You win the Electoral College, and the number is 270. And listen, Democrats. This is why now people need to understand something. Republicans want to do their best to restrict the census. That means that whoever wins the White House in 2028, they're going to be control of the census. Well, when that census comes up, the American Redistricting Project, and I've been seeing these numbers for the past several years, it's not going to bode well for blue states when you have the next census. And this is also one of the reasons why when you see Republicans out here, they're saying, "Oh, Democrats want to bring in these voters because they want to steal elections," but the Republicans are desperate to try to control population. So just check this out. Understand here. Look at this map here, and that is based upon when you look at the census that'll be done 2030. Texas is expected to pick up 4 seats. Well, for people need to understand something. Congressional districts in the country are based upon population. And so because the population will rise in Texas, they're going to pick up 4 seats. Florida will pick up 2. Arizona, Georgia, Idaho, North Carolina, Utah, they'll pick up 1 each. California is expected to lose 4 seats. And then when you look at who also will lose, Illinois, Minnesota, New York State, Oregon, Pennsylvania, Rhode Island, Wisconsin, all expected to lose 1 seat. So you're talking about, if you just look straight up, red, blue. North Carolina, it's red, but it's also blue. You're talking 4, 6, 7, 8, 9. That's 11. That's 11 seats right there that red states will pick up. Blue states will lose 11. That means that when you start talking about the map, and you see right here, the impact, that is going to be significant, Mustafa, for Democrats, because what this map is going to show, blue states are going to lose 11. So if you look at a map right now at 270, so if you just look at the map here, let's just say, if you look at California, obviously that's blue. One of the reasons why, and I've been saying this, Democrats are going to have to do some serious work in driving out the black vote in North Carolina and Georgia. It is because of this map. It's also why they've got to do better in Florida, also Texas, because the reality is this here. If Democrats lose, let's say those 11, if you pick up a Georgia, so I'm going to go to another map. 270towin.com. I'm just going to use the existing numbers. If you look at Georgia and North Carolina, okay? So we're going to look at it right here, okay? Let's see here. So when you look at 270towin.com, you look at Georgia represents 16 electoral college votes. North Carolina represents 16 electoral college votes. That's 32 votes. You win those two states, again, you can make up for the loss of those 11. This is why Arizona is also going to be critical. If you lose 11 electoral college votes in those other blue states in California, if you win Arizona alone, you pick up 11 electoral college votes. If you turn Nevada blue, all of a sudden Arizona and Nevada, that's 17. And so Democrats had better understand the map and understand why you must turn out, because what they cannot do, if you lose those 11, they cannot concede Georgia as a red state and North Carolina as a red state, because now you're changing the numbers. And they've got to get back to competing in Florida, because Republicans right now, they can lock on Texas 40, Florida 30. That's 70 right there, electoral college votes. And so the math is the math, Mustafa. And again, this is where organizing and mobilizing is going to be so critical. And all these folks, they always talk about, oh, Wisconsin, Michigan, those places. I'm telling you right now, after the 2028 election, those western states of Nevada and Arizona and those southern states of Georgia and North Carolina are going to be even bigger for Democrats and Republicans.
Yeah, and you just got to do the work. You start the work now. You know, how many times have we, had these officials on from the Democratic Party and others, and, really asking the tough questions of them about when are you actually going to start funding properly? When are you going to build the infrastructure? When are you going to make sure that the groups who are on the ground, who know folks, have the resources that they need? You got to give the Republicans credit, right? Because they have both an immediate and a long-term vision, and they make sure that they stick to it, and they make sure that they fund it. So if Democrats really want to be competitive in the future over the next couple of decades, then they've got to actually do the things that people have been sharing with them that would help them to be in a better, stronger position. And if they don't, if they go back to the old playbook, let's just say, they have a big win in 26 and, maybe they have a win in 28, and then they revert back to the old ways of doing business, you will set yourself up for the next decade, at least, if not 2 decades, of losing and losing and losing. I'll just say this last point. When you look at Georgia, when you look at North Carolina, they are very winnable. All you have to do is look at the work that Reverend Barber did and others in North Carolina to understand that when you meet the needs of people, that you can actually help them to understand who's the best party to, help them to achieve the things that they're looking for. And then when you go out west, whether it is Nevada or Arizona, those are also very winnable, but you've got to make the investments. If you don't do it, then you're going to find yourself in a very precarious situation moving forward.
Absolutely. And Larry, it comes down to the math. And all too often, what you're seeing is that these white Democratic consultants, they want to appeal to these places like Pennsylvania and others, and we're going to win the suburbs. But guess what? When you start studying the map, when you start studying, how you win, listen, if we saw Republicans win Wisconsin, Michigan, Pennsylvania, win those western states, the reality is you're going to have to pick up some wins in some other places. And what that means is the best bet, I'm going back to this map right here. The best bet is, where are their black voters? Where are they black voters, but also Latino voters? Those western states are critically important. If I put Wisconsin, if I play with this map and I put Wisconsin red, and let's just say Michigan blue, okay? And then Pennsylvania, I'm going to put Pennsylvania in a toss-up, all right? So right now, right here, I have Georgia as a toss-up, North Carolina as a toss-up, Pennsylvania as a toss-up. I've got Iowa. I got Iowa red. Iowa red. I've got Illinois blue. I've got Ohio red. And so obviously I've got Texas here. Let me go blue here, deep blue here. Bottom line, Larry, when I look at this map right now, it's sitting at 241, 246. All of a sudden, Republicans win Pennsylvania. Let's just say they're at 265. That means that Democrats, you have to win North Carolina, Georgia. You got no choice to win, because right there, that's 34 electoral college votes that gets you there. So they have got to be focusing on, they've got to get away from this idea. I'm telling you right now, someone in this chat discussed Ohio. Ohio's red, okay? Those white union workers, they're red. Democrats have better understand Georgia and North Carolina, and then Arizona, I dare say Arizona and Nevada, though that is the pathway to the future, assuming they win a Michigan, but lose a Wisconsin and lose a Pennsylvania. Larry, you got to pick up those Western states, or you got to pick up those two Southern states, pure and simple.
Absolutely. And this, Roland, we talked about this a lot on your show. This really comes down to GOTV, get out the vote. And the Democratic parties, waning interest in really a long-term investment and strategy in the Black community to get folks out to vote. And that's what it really comes down to. Even when we look at the most recent election, there were a lot of Black folks who just did not vote. Now, we could argue this for what the reasons are. We see some research, misinformation, et cetera. But the reality is we got to get folks off the couch. So that means marketing. That means providing some advertising dollars for this show. But in addition to that, we need boots on the ground. This has to be a community-based effort to increase the Black vote. North Carolina, Georgia, and some of the other states we talked about, even my home state of Pennsylvania. If you're not willing to do that, then we're constantly be caught in a cycle where we're fighting against the tide. And there are a lot of Black people out there, like I said, who are hesitant voters or don't vote, that we can encourage to vote if we invest in the infrastructure and truly talk about topics that are important to the Black community.
And this is the thing, Rand. I'm going back to this map here. Okay, so if I give Democrats Nevada, and I give Arizona to Republicans, and I'm giving Minnesota to Democrats, I'm giving Wisconsin to Republicans, Michigan to Democrats, I'm giving Pennsylvania to Republicans. That means Republicans are sitting at 259, Democrats sitting at 263. This right here, this state right here, it comes down. And again, that's I'm giving Georgia. That's also based upon Georgia being blue. Okay, so let's say Georgia goes blue. Okay, let's say Georgia stays red. Republicans at 291. Okay, now if I give North Carolina, if Georgia goes red, and North Carolina goes to Democrats, Republicans still at 275, which means Democrats have got to win a Nevada. So they have to, if they split Georgia and North Carolina, they got to win one of the Western states. If they lose, Randy, if they lose both Western states, Nevada and Arizona, but they win Georgia, North Carolina, boom, they're at 273.
Right.
Math is the math. That means Latino voters, that means Black voters, Latino voters in the West, Black voters in the South.
And these folks need to stop using the same old tactics they've always used and focusing on the same audience and really just taking Black voters for granted and not targeting us. They've always just said, oh, they're going to come out and vote and they're going to vote Democratic. And no, they first of all need to be, realistic about the real situation of what's been going on. First of all, this current administration has done so much to strike fear in the hearts of Black and Latino voters. I think people are going to be more hesitant. So they need to realize they need to do some more work. They also need to realize that not take people for granted and that they need to target us, talk about the issues that really affect us, like Dr. Walker was saying, that we care about, and to get us out there and vote and be creative. I do get sick of, we sit on the show and we talk about there really are these same people who call themselves experts leading these drives, but they're not, it doesn't seem like looking at what's happening now. What's the current situation of America? And they're just depending on the same old way of doing things. And we need for them to wake up, take a real look at what's happening, because we can absolutely win those states. I mean, there's no reason we cannot get North Carolina, and no reason we cannot get Georgia and Nevada and Arizona. And quiet as kept, I really think if this administration continues on the path that they're going right now, in Texas, where there's more Black folks in Texas than anywhere else, I mean, Florida has to be shook about what's going on. We can't just assume that those states, that we don't have to do anything in those states because they're lost, because I think we have a real opportunity to actually win those states and make and create some penetration there.
So just so people are clear, this is the existing map, okay? And again, I need you to understand something. After the 2030 census, it's estimated that California is going to lose 4. And then you're going to see a loss of 7 others. So right now, if you're talking about blue states, California, if I'm going to go back to the graphic here, this is what they are saying. They're saying that that Illinois, California, Illinois, Minnesota, New York, Oregon, Pennsylvania, Rhode Island, Wisconsin, they're going to lose 11. I gave Pennsylvania to the Republicans. That means, folks, that according to, if you're talking about 2030, that means when you look at this map, where you see right now, give me one second, I made a mistake here. When you look at this map right here, that means that this map, 273, Democrats will lose 11 with the census in 2030. So that means that's the equivalent of the Republicans losing Arizona. That means that if you lose 10, because I gave Pennsylvania to the Republicans, they're going to lose 1, which means that even if Democrats win, and this is the key, folks, if Democrats win Georgia, North Carolina, they got to pick up 11. Arizona becomes even more critical. That means Wisconsin becomes critical because Wisconsin has 10. So the math is the math. So I'm telling you right now, folks had better understand massive turnout. You got to be connecting with voters to get them to the polls. All right, going to go to a break. I'll be right back on Roland Martin Unfiltered on the Black Star Network. Support the work that we do. Join our Bring the Funk fan club. Conversations we have, y'all know you ain't getting anywhere else, but your resources are critically important for us to do the work that we do. If you want to contribute to our fan club, again, our goal is to ask for $50 each from our fan base. The goal is to get 20,000 people donating on average $50 each a year. That's $4.19 a month, 13 cents a day. If you want to contribute via Cash App, use the Stripe QR code to see it right here. Click the Cash App Pay button to contribute. Checks and money order. Make it payable to P.O. Box 57196, Washington, D.C. 2003 7-0196. PayPal is R Martin Unfiltered. Venmo RM Unfiltered. Zelle Roland at RolandSMartin.com. Roland at RolandMartinUnfiltered.com. We'll be right back.
They said the quiet part out loud. Black votes are a threat, so they erased them. After the Supreme Court gutted the Voting Rights Act in 2013, Republican legislatures moved fast. New voter ID laws, polling place shutdowns, purges of black voters from the rolls. Trump's Justice Department didn't stop it, they joined in. In 2018, his DOJ backed Ohio's voter purge system, a scheme that disproportionately erased black voters. Their goal, erase black votes and political power. Yeah, that happened. These are the kinds of stories that we cover every day on Roland Martin Unfiltered. Subscribe on YouTube and download the Black Star Network app. Support fact-based independent journalism that centers African Americans and the issues that matter to our community.
If in this country right now, you have people get up in the morning and the only thing they can think about is how many people they can hurt, and they got the power, that's the time for mourning.
For better or worse, what makes America special, it's that legal system that's supposed to protect minorities from the tyranny of the majority.
We are at a point of a moral emergency. We must raise a voice of outrage. We must raise a voice of compassion. And we must raise a voice of unity.
We are not in a crisis of party versus party. We are in a crisis of civilization, a human rights crisis, and a crisis of democracy itself. And guess what? You've been chosen to make sure that those that would destroy, those that would hate, don't have the final say, and they don't ultimately win.
Hey, I'm Malcolm Lee, and you're watching the Black Star Network.
Folks, some good news for a black Minnesota family whose son was killed by a Minneapolis cop. The Supreme Court declined to stop a damages lawsuit against police from the family of Amir Locke, a 22-year-old killed by police serving a no-knock warrant in 2022. Officer Mark Hanneman, represented by the city, sought a reversal of a decision for the St. Louis-based 8th U.S. Circuit Court of Appeals that denied him qualified immunity. This legal doctrine shields police in certain situations. Police were searching for a murder suspect in the apartment when they roused Locke, who was holding a handgun. 8 seconds after entering, Hanneman fired 3 shots, striking Locke, who died within 15 minutes. His family sued for damages, arguing the officer's actions violated the Fourth Amendment. Hanneman relied on body camera footage to bolster his claim that Locke raised his gun and pointed it toward police officers before shooting, giving him probable cause to believe Locke posed a threat. But a federal trial court concluded that the footage did not contradict allegations that Locke was actually lowering the gun and responding to police instructions. Amir's mother, Karen Wells, his aunt, Linda Tyler, and their attorney, Jeffrey Storm, join us right now. All right, so Jeffrey, for folks who just don't understand the law and whatever, what does this now mean? Supreme Court is not ruling the case in your favor. It's allowing your suit to go forward, correct?
Well, that's correct, Roland. It's a great piece of news for the family. It's a great piece of news for justice and accountability, but it's also disheartening because here we are, we've filed this lawsuit almost 3 years ago, and we're just now getting into discovery. And, you know, one of the reasons I find it particularly disheartening, if we think about the timing of it, as you and many of your viewers have seen, we've watched very emotional public outcries from the mayor of Minneapolis about shooting deaths here in Minneapolis. But we did not see that same response when Minneapolis police officers killed a young black man. And instead, we've watched the city now drag this case on for 3 years before we've even really got started. So while it's a great day for the family and a great day for justice, a little disappointing in light of the reaction to other events in our city.
Absolutely, Karen. This has to be difficult because you're constantly trying to pursue justice, and all too often when you have these police shootings, frankly, these cases very, very rarely go anywhere.
Well, actually, from day one, I just give everything up to my higher power, our Father God in heaven, because without him, I would not be able to be here, sitting here talking to you about my son going on 4 years later, waiting for at least some form of justice for my baby boy. Like our attorney Jeff said, you know, it's bittersweet for me, but it's hard for me when I hear the mayor and other people in Minneapolis, you know, speak about what's going on now as far as with the ICE agents on the federal level. But when it comes to the state level, they know that they have blood on their hands. Not only do they have the blood of Amir Locke on their hands, but they have all the other stolen lives in Minneapolis as well on their hands when it comes to the state law enforcement. So where do we go from here? Like that's a slap in the face when it comes to my son. So it's been hard for me the past several days, even hearing about, you know, that we can move forward. The Supreme Court denied their appeal. But what about my baby? He should still be here. And I want all forms of justice for Amir. I do.
And to that point, obviously, Linda, people sort of judge different reactions to different shootings based upon how lawsuits are defended.
You're on mute.
Sorry about that. I want to correct something, and I just want to make sure that we're aware of this. Is when you started off, you talked about Amir was holding a gun. When they went in, they knocked him on the ground. They kicked the couch twice. The gun was not in his hand when they went in. They kicked it. It was laying, and he picked it up. So I want to make sure, because what's important for us as a family is that the narrative is always correct. That's the one thing that we've been challenging the courts and everybody, that they're telling the truth at all times, that it is what physically happened and that they understand it. Because this is really hard. But as a family, we chose to fight, and we understand that sometimes things work out. They're not in our time, they're in God's time. So we understand that, and that's why it's important that we stay prayed up, because you have to pray your way through this, because here we are 3 years later and still fighting. And every time something goes on in Minneapolis, it's a trigger for the family.
To that particular point there, Jeffrey, first of all, what always happens in these cases, it always happens, and we've covered, my God, 1,000 of these cases, unfortunately, is that you have how police in the cities, how they establish what a narrative is, and then lock that in to say what actually took place. We've shown that particular video a number of times, and again, that's part of the deal. In this case, and I remember this story vividly because, and Jeffrey, if I'm correct, that the Minneapolis police were this was a St. Paul warrant. This is a St. Paul warrant, and then with this particular no knock, and if the mayor, based upon other shootings, had declared no more no knock warrants in Minneapolis. And so it was crazy that they conducted this with St. Paul, knowing full well that they had made the determination no knock warrants.
Well, and that's right, Roland. That's an excellent point. St. Paul, when they obtained the warrant, originally obtained a knock and announce warrant. And it was Minneapolis who said, we're not knocking first, we're conducting this as a no knock. And then as we start to dig in, what do we find out? That over the months preceding Amir being killed, they do conduct no knock warrants, but really only in Black homes. It was almost at 100% level, Roland. And so to have the mayor said what he had to say on the campaign trail, which we now know is false, which were in those advertisements, to know that another city was prepared to conduct this as a knock and announce, And here we are. We filed this lawsuit 3 years ago, and they fought it up all the way to the Supreme Court before we even got going. It just shows a stunning lack of voluntary accountability.
And again, it is very difficult for folks to have to see this. But Jeffrey, for folks who do not remember, again, it's a no-knock warrant. They enter the apartment. Amir's actually sleeping on the couch and is startled by them coming in. And so Jeffrey, then what happens?
Well, what you see happen is they shout a whole bunch of confusing commands at Amir where they bust in. And within seconds, Amir shows textbook trigger discipline. You can see there is a gun at some point in Amir's hand, but Amir is pointing the gun down. His fingers clearly never on the trigger. He's raising his thumb up, which is another sign of disarming oneself, and starting to put his other hand in the air.
And as you're talking, I found one of these. And so this, it's one of those body cam footage. Go right ahead.
But so you actually see Amir do what you would expect a reasonable gun owner to do who might have a weapon near them for protection, which is identify what's going on, observe it's not a threat, and relinquish your weapon. Where meanwhile, Officer Hanneman, who shot Amir, had the benefit of being awake, had the benefit of knowing that they were going to be conducting this warrant, and he simply did not give Amir the opportunity to complete the act of compliance that he already started and save his own life. And here the court critically recognized the mere possession of a firearm in the United States of America should not result in you being shot and killed. We are allowed to possess weapons in this country. It's a well-established right, the second in the second order in terms of the Bill of Rights. And you cannot just shoot him because he possesses a gun. And so here we have a young man who did everything you were supposed to do to de-escalate a situation and prevent a tragic outcome. But the Supreme Court has now, by not taking this case, maybe not explicitly recognized, but tacitly, because they put everything in front of the Supreme Court, Roland. They gave them the videos, they gave them still images, they gave them all the same arguments that they tried to feed to the trial appellate court, who rejected it and said, we are not going to look at this video and accept that Amir Locke's rights were not violated. We are going to have discovery in this case, and we are going to get to the truth of what happened. And I think it's really powerful that the Supreme Court did have all that evidence. They had amicus briefs from very powerful law enforcement agencies represented by great local attorneys who were pushing the Supreme Court to take this case, and they still said no. And I will tell you what gives me some hope for this case, Roland, I know that whenever we take one of these cases on, we always look at it as, hey, there are going to be some struggles. But federal judges, they put bad people in prison sometimes. They do. And I have no doubt that many federal judges in this country sleep with firearms next to their dresser. And it's not too hard to envision a scenario where someone maybe doxes, finds out where a federal judge lives, reports something, and a federal judge reaches for that firearm, exercising their Second Amendment right. And so I think that most people can look at this and can relate. And I think that includes federal judges at bottom.
Yes.
So, and the thing here is, again, I remember this when it happened. And listen, if I'm asleep on the couch and all of a sudden somebody busts through the door, I'm thinking it's a home invasion.
That's right.
I don't know what the hell it is. And so all of a sudden, if you're coming in, you have to establish very quickly that it's police, and the timing. I remember when we broke this video down on the show. It was mere seconds after they bust in, they yelled police, and it was just illogical that they would think that somebody would just somehow, if I'm sleeping and you yell police, then I could sit here and make reasonable decisions. It was just absolutely chaos. And Jeffrey, for the audience, what was the warrant for?
Well, this was just a search for property. It was related to a criminal investigation, but this was not a search to seize anyone in this apartment, and no
Right.
one in that room was a suspect.
And what time?
Yet they
And what
called him a
time?
suspect.
What time was the no-knock warrant?
Yeah.
The very early hours in the morning, because that's what they try to do when they execute the no-knock, is to catch you in a manner in which you're unprepared and you're startled.
Right. That's just absolutely it was bewildering. I remember when this happened, and it just made no sense whatsoever. And this was a perfect example of why no-knock warrants make no sense at all. And so all right.
And
so
this is if I can add, Minnesota is a castle law state. So it allows you to bear arms. It allows you to protect your home, as you just talked about. And Amir was a law-abiding citizen. His gun was registered. He didn't have a criminal record. Don't these things sound familiar? Because that's just what they said about Alex Peretti. He was a law-abiding citizen. He was a gun owner. He had his rights, and Amir was in the same situation. And so for me, as the auntie, when I look at things that's happening now, I never compare. I think about his mother and how his mother's, as we said, get the story right, tell the truth. Because the narrative that came out about him was that he came toting a gun, getting ready to go after these officers. It's like this playbook of brutality in the city that continues, whether it's ICE or the police. It's like saying the same thing over and over again. And it's really important that we just hold people accountable and say, just tell the truth. Because if you have nothing to hide, then it's okay to tell the truth.
Well, we've done so many of these stories, and the idea of telling the truth, that's a little hard for a whole lot of these officers. Karen Wells, Linda Tyler, Jeffrey Storms, we surely appreciate it. Thanks a lot.
Thank you for having us.
All right, folks, going to a break. I'll be right back with Headlines with Brittany Noble right here on Roland Martin Unfiltered on the Black Star Network.
If in this country right now, you have people get up in the morning and the only thing they can think about is how many people they can hurt, and they got the power, that's the time for mourning.
For better or worse, what makes America special, it's that legal system that's supposed to protect minorities from the tyranny of the majority.
We are at a point of a moral emergency. We must raise a voice of outrage. We must raise a voice of compassion. And we must raise a voice of unity.
We are not in a crisis of party versus party. We are in a crisis of civilization, a human rights crisis, and a crisis of democracy itself. And guess what? You've been chosen to make sure that those that would destroy, those that would hate, don't have the final say, and they don't ultimately win.
I'm Risa Colbert, and you're watching the Black Star Network.
All right, folks, time for Black Star Network Headlines with Brittany Noble.
Maryland Congressman Kwesi Mfume introduced a new bill. It would make it easier for Americans to track their mail-in ballots. The goal is to increase the transparency of mail-in ballots in hopes of boosting the confidence in our elections. This will also help Americans verify that their votes are counted. The Vote by Mail Tracking Act will add official logo and standardized tracking barcodes to each mail-in ballot. This will also allow voters to track their ballot status. In North Carolina, a former police officer is suing another ex-officer who shot him more than 10 times during a 2019 drug raid. Former officer Clarence Belton says that the only Black member of the FBI Safe Streets Task Force, and he was first accidentally shot by another task force member during a standoff with a suspect. As Belton tried to crawl to safety, he was then shot repeatedly by Task Force Officer Heather Loveridge until someone yelled that Belton was a cop. The Charlotte District Attorney's Office declined to file criminal charges. Loveridge was fired in 2020 and now argues that the civil lawsuit should be dismissed under qualified immunity. More than 6 years later, the case remains unresolved as a court decides whether Loveridge is protected by qualified immunity. Rapper Kanye West is opening up about his mental health in a full-page letter published in the Wall Street Journal. West says a brain injury from a car accident decades ago contributed to his bipolar disorder diagnosis, which he says did not come until 2023. He also describes a month-long manic episode in early 2025 that he says upended his life. In the letter, West addresses the Black community directly, acknowledging its role in his success and expressing regret for letting people down. The statement is sparking renewed conversations about mental health, accountability, and the stigma in our community. Well, actor Quentin Aaron, best known for his role as Michael Orr in The Blind Side, collapsed at his Atlanta home. He was on life support while doctors treated him for a blood infection. His wife says he is now partially breathing on his own, has opened his eyes, and was able to give a thumbs up, though doctors are still working to determine the cause of his condition. A GoFundMe launched to help cover medical expenses has surpassed its $35,000 goal as Aaron faces a long recovery that may include physical therapy and relearning how to walk. Roland?
All right, then, folks, don't forget, you can check out, we got a new daily noon news show right here on the Black Star Network. Every noon at noon Eastern, the Breakdown with Brittany Noble airs right here on the Black Star Network. So it allows you to get caught up with the headlines, the news of the day. So when you're on your lunch break, you can check that out. So every single day at noon Eastern. So check out the Breakdown with Brittany Noble. This is a new show. We launched it on Monday. And so it's all about giving you another way of getting the news that we covered. So lots of stuff to talk about, lots of stuff to break down. And so you can certainly check that out. And so again, every day, noon Eastern, on the Black Star Network, the Breakdown with Brittany Noble. Check it out. Folks, a recent study conducted by brain science researchers at Washington University in St. Louis indicates that nearly half of the mortality gap between Black and white adults can be attributed to the cumulative effects of lifelong stress and inflammation. The researchers analyzed blood samples from over 1,500 Black and white adults as part of a 17-year aging study in the St. Louis area. They discovered that lifelong stress, including experiences of trauma, childhood adversity, discrimination, and economic hardship, was linked to higher levels of inflammation and earlier mortality. According to federal data, the life expectancy for Black Americans is just 74 years in 2023, among the lowest in the nation. Health equity researchers note that this kind of research has been targeted for elimination by the Trump administration because it is associated with diversity, equity, and inclusion. See, that right there, Randy, is the problem. See, the Trump folks don't want to deal with the reality of systemic racism, don't want to deal with the impact of things that have happened between Blacks and whites. And this is a perfect example of what's true, what's fact.
Right. They want to act as if this country was not founded on the separation of races, that it didn't exist, that we were oppressed and not even seen as human beings. They want to rewrite history. That's why we're seeing every day as they go through museums and try to take away what proves what really happened in this country. I mean, if they deny the history of America and actually what's happening right now, then it's easy for them to say there is no reason to have diversity, equity, and inclusion programs. And I just happen to know, because this is, area I focus on, that the NIH, the National Institutes of Health, the studies that they've been doing that affect Black people and certain diseases that affect us more, like sickle cell anemia, those programs are being cut It's going to have tragic consequences for Black people, because they're saying if there's something that is targeted for Black people or helps Black people, then all of a sudden somehow that's racist. That's reverse racism, which we all know that reverse racism isn't real and is absolutely ridiculous. Whereas the studies that they've always done that focused on white people, most of the time when they're looking at diseases, even their people who come in to be tested are white people. So we don't even know, about diseases that affect us. Of course, not a lot of money was even ever given in the first place to help diseases that affect us. And now they're absolutely cutting that. So this wiping out of our history and justification for killing DEI is literally killing us and going to have severe consequences on the Black community.
Well, what it says, Mustafa, is they don't give a damn about racial inequities. They don't care at all. And they just want to label anything DEI. So they don't, Donald Trump, Steve Miller, all the people, they don't give a damn about Black people.
No, it's about, there's intentionality in the erasure that's happening. They understand that if you can impact the science, if you can say science, you can no longer look at X, Y, and Z, then you can make sure that the funding that is necessary to address whatever the impacts are no longer has to be a part of the equation. And of course, the extra that they get by that is that they begin to erase us because as the study showed, that we die earlier because of all these impacts, the cumulative, as well as the synergistic and the multiple impacts that continue to, happen to our community. I've been talking about weathering for 20 years now. Research has been going on, I believe, for about 40 years now. Bringing that in, helping people to understand when we talk about environmental racism and the continued stressors that are a part of that, both the physical and the mental stressors, it all begins to have this cumulative impact on folks. So, there's real intentionality in these sets of actions that are going on, and people need to just understand that it is about money, but it is also about no longer having you a part of the equation.
And I mean, bottom line is, if you have a stress-free life as a kid, as a young adult, as an adult, you probably are going to have less health issues. And again, the impact of a stressful life on African Americans is real when you tie in economics, when you tie in food insecurity. So lots of stuff you can tie in here, Larry.
Yeah, you can, Roland. So it's interesting enough, I'm working on a journal article, and I talk about Black faculty stressors at predominantly white institutions. So I'm going to cite this study because, I know we talk about socioeconomic factors, et cetera, but I think the other thing we keep in mind is that Black folks, even from, who are, considered, college educated, work in various fields, it deal with extreme stressors in the workplace that impacts their well-being. I know plenty of Black folks who are college professors who had to leave academia because the stress was so intense that their body was breaking down. So these challenges that Black folks encounter are not just Black folks in underserved communities. Black folks, like I said, who've gone on and spent many years in college also experience these in the workplace. And like I said, this is coincidentally, I'm working on something right now, but this is very serious situation. And as Mustafa noted, there has been a lot of research, particularly the last couple of years, that talk about how these stressors and even ACEs for young people have a cumulative impact on Black folks. And so we need more studies like this. And we have to keep in mind that the counter to that is that we have to look at our own well-being, having therapists, eating right, and also, going to the gym, et cetera. But these things are real. And it's unfortunately, Black folks have been dealing with these issues for generations.
Absolutely. And this is the reality of what it means to be Black in this country. And this is also what happens when you've got an administration that doesn't give a damn about that, doesn't give a damn about studying it, doesn't give a damn about how to fix the problem because they don't care. They just want to sit here and do anything to make white folks feel happy. And so that's what you see going on here. Folks, let's talk about a retirement. Washington, D.C.'s longtime member of Congress, Eleanor Holmes Norton, says she's retired for 36 years. She's represented D.C. in the House since 1991. She's been a longtime advocate for statehood with notable achievements, including revitalizing neighborhoods such as the Wharf and Capitol Riverfront, transferring the RFK Stadium site, introducing education programs. But here's the deal. The reality is, for the past couple of years, really last 4 or 5 years, there have been a lot of questions surrounding her health. And there were people coming out, very close friends of hers, saying she needed to step down. And a couple of days ago, they submitted FEC documents regarding fundraising, indicating that she was terminating that. And then the announcement came out. And really what we've seen a whole lot of this. The questions that have been raised just, is it Alzheimer's, is dementia, whatever. And the problem is it colors her long career. Mustafa, a career as a civil rights activist, as EEOC, as member of Congress. And it's one of those things that, and we've dealt with it on this show. We were one of the first folks that said she needed to step down and not run it. We said she should not have ran in 2024. And this is the issue that people raise, that sometimes when you're around too long, knowing when it's time to go and pass the baton to the next generation.
We're thankful, right? We're thankful to her for everything that she has done. She deserves to rest. Too many of our elders have to continue and, to carry the baton. And as you just said, we need to make sure that we have plans in place for them to be able to pass that baton. We need to make sure that, this next generation is trained up so that they can take it to the next level. We just talked about, weathering and stress, and to be in the fight on Capitol Hill for DC statehood and a number of other critical issues. She had to carry all that weight. So we just need to be able to create scenarios and situations where we continue to honor our elders who've given so much, to let them know that it is okay to rest, to let them also understand and know that we are still going to need them. We need their wisdom, and we will call upon them in certain situations, but it is okay. You've done all that you needed to do. And now it's time for somebody else to step in and to continue the fight, if you will. So I'm thankful for everything she did. Yes, and for a whole bunch of our folks, Larry and myself working on Capitol Hill, we saw members who were there 10, 20, 30, 40 years. And we've got to just change that scenario and also say thank you.
To that point, Larry, again, when we talk about service, we talk about what you do, and even this conversation shows it. If you leave at the right time, the focus is on what you did. But if you stay too long, the focus is your state of mind and you staying too long.
Roland, this really is heartbreaking. And Mustafa highlighted some really important points. My former boss saw when Dan at the Governor Reform Committee with Congressman Holmes Norton, and I saw her at her best and had the chance to work with her and her staff on a number of occasions. And to see, that vibrant person, knowledgeable, et cetera, to what we see today, it is heartbreaking. And it's unfortunate to say when people often stay in politics at the federal state level, and particularly in this case, seeing your sheroes diminish and not what they used to be, and her own, former staffers calling her out and saying she stepped down. It really does break my heart. Particularly, like I said, is she a member of the Congressional Black Caucus? But this is once again an example in which sometimes it is important to pass the baton. The one thing about leadership is you have to have a transition plan, right? Who's the next individuals who's going to take the lead to make sure the next generation of Washingtonians, and I live in the city, can make sure that we're protecting members of the Black community, and particularly as we've seen these ongoing fight in this to take over the city by the administration. So once again, I'm saddened to see this happen. But once again, this is a cautionary tale in terms of politicians learning when to transition out.
Randy, this video I'm playing right now, this is a video that Mayor Muriel Bowser put out as a tribute to Congresswoman Eleanor Holmes Norton. Randy, go ahead. Share your thoughts.
Oh, I thought some sound was going to come with the video. Sorry.
No, go ahead.
But absolutely. I mean, I'm glad to see this video. I hope she knows how very much we respect and value her and how thankful we are for her service. But absolutely, as everyone has already said, there needs to be really, almost, I think, term limits. When someone, we have to be honest about the aging process. And, we need people that have the energy to be able to fight. It's particularly us. And we don't have the same energy as we age sometimes. So I'm happy for her that she will be able to rest in these years. But I am also happy for the district, as we transition and we have someone who could maybe bring, a new vigor, because it has been, there has been a slow decline that people have been watching Norton suffer through. And so I think new beginnings are great.
This is a video that DC Vote put out. So let's check this here out.
One of our mayors dubbed me the warrior on the Hill. You've got to have somebody who not only fights back, but enjoys fighting back.
Gentlewoman yield. Home rule. I will not yield, sir. The District of Columbia has spent 206 years yielding. You have had your say. That you think that the people who live in your capital are not entitled to a vote in their house. Shame on you.
What's the good of being a third-generation Washingtonian if you sit on the sidelines while your city is denied everything everybody else has?
And like anybody who's bullied, we don't know how to do anything but fight back.
It's an anomaly in the world. There's no other capital city where the residents do not have the same representation in the House and the Senate. It is what the framers meant when they said no taxation without representation. I'm proud to represent the District of Columbia in the House of Representatives to fight for democracy in the capital of the United States.
All right, folks. So again, the race is on for individuals to replace Councilman Elon Holmes Norton. That election will be taking place, of course, in November. Time for a quick break. We'll be right back. Roland Martin Unfiltered on the Black Star Network.
If in this country right now, you have people get up in the morning and the only thing they can think about is how many people they can hurt, and they got the power, that's the time for mourning.
For better or worse, what makes America special, it's that legal system that's supposed to protect minorities from the tyranny of the majority.
We are at a point of a moral emergency. We must raise a voice of outrage. We must raise a voice of compassion. And we must raise a voice of unity.
We are not in a crisis of party versus party. We are in a crisis of civilization, a human rights crisis, and a crisis of democracy itself. And guess what? You've been chosen to make sure that those that would destroy, those that would hate, don't have the final say, and they don't ultimately win.
I'm Risa Colbert, and you're watching the Black Star Network.
Saw this story where the co-head of Latinos for Trump said Stephen Miller's going to cost us the midterm elections. I don't know what planet she's been living on, but trust me, it goes beyond Stephen Miller. You've got critical elections this year. And really the question that I think is in the air, and we look at these various polls and what they show. For instance, there's this new generic ballot poll showing when it comes to independent voters. That I'll quickly show you this here. Democrats 49%, Republicans 23%. Last poll, Democrats were plus 15% and now plus 26%. And listen, you got to make the case. But I keep saying, Mustafa, and I'm going to continue to say it as long as I got breath in my body, that you have to run elections today a lot different. Today, you really have to be focusing on much earlier, being able to reach folks at an earlier stage, talking to people at an earlier stage. Really, as I say, enlightening, empowering, informing, that kind of educating folks. That has to happen. But this comes down to a massive turnout game, and we better understand that when Donald Trump and his folks are asking for the voter rolls, they are desperately trying to suppress the vote. They do not want a massive turnout in November.
Yeah, they do not want it, but it should happen, and it will happen if people make the investments. Folks are fired up right now, right? Jobs are not being created. The prices of food and utilities is just skyrocketing, and people want something better. I think Trump is out right now on his affordability tour, visiting a few states. And, beyond the folks who are going to stand there and cheer, most folks are saying that they are in a worse position than before. So if you have that as the backdrop, all you need to do is actually, one, listen to people and make the investments early and often. And if you do that, then you have, a recipe for success. And if you don't do it, then you just missed an opportunity to actually be able to, get some folks into office who actually care about folks and who are going to do something to uplift, folks across the country, especially Black folks.
Yeah, Larry.
Mustafa hit it right on the nose, Roland. And one of the things we had to do is we had to make sure, in terms of getting people early, you talked about, we got to invest in young folks, as early as possible. Look at what's happening in North Carolina A&T in terms of moving the polling site. You see a lot of those college students at, these election board meetings. What's the Democratic Party doing in the area to support these young folks and encourage other folks, young people in the area there to register to vote and be active? But that comes from funding, and it comes from a long-term commitment and strategy, something the Democratic Party has lacked, and the Republican Party doesn't care about Black folks. So, it's really important, once again, and like I said, you have a strategy that is sensible, but not only says I'm going to, talk to young people, but make sure the young people are creating a platform and the also initiatives to make sure that we can use the language they understand and appreciate.
Randy.
And Roland, shows like this are so important because I am flabbergasted at the misinformation that is everywhere these days. I mean, now the Republicans, MAGA, control the media. They own most of the social media sites, but they also, are running the major media stations. And so what they're putting out there are just outright lies. And so people don't even know the truth. So it is vital that people are receiving the correct information and not just receiving it, it's being repeated to them over and over again so they understand what's really going on with the administration now. And so, and also, I don't want the Democrats just to count on I'm anti-Trump, but tell us what you're going to do differently. What is your plan? People want real concrete information about how their lives can be better than their lives can be better than they are today.
Absolutely. Hey, folks, Senator Raphael Warnock dropped this video about 30 minutes ago. He went to Minnesota and he shared this. So I want to go ahead and play it for our audience as well.
And so I'm spending time on the streets of Minneapolis. And while this is indeed a dark time in our country, I have to tell you that what I'm seeing from the people of Minneapolis is no less than inspiring. With courage and commitment, they are standing up against Trump as he tramples upon basic American rights. ICE cannot continue in this way, kidnapping children off of streets, killing Americans with impunity, barging into homes without a warrant. This cannot stand. And it's the people who are standing up in this moment. Here's my promise to you. As I stand up in the United States Senate, I will block ICE funding. I will use the power of oversight to hold them accountable. Keep raising your voice and know that I'm.
All right, folks, that was Again, U.S. Senator Raphael Warnock. Quick break, come back. Shop Black Star Network Marketplace segment. You're watching Roland Unfiltered. The Black Star Network. Support our work. Join our Brain Funk fan club. You want to give via Cash App, use the Stripe QR code. You see it right here on the screen. Also, you can also support via checks and money order. Make it payable to Roland Martin Unfiltered. P.O. Box 57196, Washington, D.C. 2003 7-0196. PayPal, R. Martin Unfiltered. Venmo, RM Unfiltered. Zelle, Roland at RolandSMartin.com. Roland at RolandMartinUnfiltered.com. Back in a moment.
If in this country right now, you have people get up in the morning and the only thing they can think about is how many people they can hurt, and they got the power, that's the time for mourning.
For better or worse, what makes America special, it's that legal system that's supposed to protect minorities from the tyranny of the majority.
We are at a point of a moral emergency. We must raise a voice of outrage. We must raise a voice of compassion. And we must raise a voice of unity.
We are not in a crisis of party versus party. We are in a crisis of civilization, a human rights crisis, and a crisis of democracy itself. And guess what? You've been chosen to make sure that those that would destroy, those that would hate, don't have the final say, and they don't ultimately win.
Folks, it started as a spice company, but a retired Las Vegas chef, Andre Anderson, decided he needed to put his 28 herb and spice blend on chips. Thus, Symphony Chips were born. Andre's son, Don Andre, is now continuing his father's mission, providing a healthy snack option. Don Andre joins us from Atlanta. Glad to have you here. Okay, so he put it on chips. Like, how? What was it? Was he just like in the kitchen going, man, let me do something else with these herbs and spices?
Actually, Roland, and first of all, let me say it's a pleasure to be here. I'm a big fan of the show. But no, what happened was my dad, as you mentioned, a retired restaurant chef from the famous Las Vegas Strip. He actually made me breakfast one morning, and he put the spices on some eggs. And we've all had eggs before, just a little salt and a little pepper. But when he put spices for the original, that are now original chips on those eggs, I was, oh my God, what are these? I mean, what is this? What tell me what's the mixture? And when he showed me, it was a small ramekin on his stove with a spoon in it. I'm like, Pops, what you doing with this? This is amazing. And he was like, nothing. I just use it to season this, that, and the third. I'm like, well, hey, with your blessing, I think we should bottle it and sell it. So that's exactly what I did. I bottled it and got it onto a grocery store shelf, actually here in Atlanta. And when we got it on the shelf, it just kind of sat there. Because I quickly found out people don't buy spices they can't taste. So in an effort to get people to try our spices, I put it on the one thing 99.9% of people would try: potato chips. So right there, live in the store with the help of my two daughters, we actually made potato chips right there in the store. We made them, took them right out of the grease, sprinkled some seasoning right on there, and handed them out. And people were like, oh my God, the spices are good, but where can I get these chips? Where are the chips? So because this store serviced all walks of life, when you have all walks of life telling you the exact same words verbatim, where can we get the chips? I think it was time for me to answer that question. And show them where they can get the chips. And it was Symphony Chips at that point was actually born.
So, okay. So, and how long ago was that?
So we did this. Pops made the breakfast for me about 2010. And from 2010, because my background is actually software engineering, if you can believe that. And I was looking for an actual product because I, read that, and I believe that having a product would work a lot better than having a service because the product shows up instead of me. So when he offered the spices as a venture, I was like, well, that would be great. So 2010, so from 2010 to about 2012 it took me to get the packaging right for the spice bottles, because I really went into the grocery stores and I had to learn how do people buy spices. And because it was a specialty spice, I figured we would probably be in a specialty store. So I went to the specialty stores and kind of stalked people in the aisles, like, how do you buy spices? And they pick up something and look at it, and if this packaging looked pretty, they would put it in their baskets. I said, okay, well, that's the trick. Let me give me a graphic artist, let me give me a pretty package and put it on the shelf. And I thought that would work. And we got some sales, like I said, it wasn't moving as fast as I wanted it to. So that's when we had the idea for the in-store demo. But like I said, that was about 2012 when we did the in-store demo. And then my next move, the one thing I knew about business was most businesses fail because they cannot supply the actual demand. So I said, well, what if the right person walks up and says, I love these chips. I want 100,000 bags. Then my thing was, I want to be able to fulfill that order. So instead of just launching by frying them up in my kitchen, I actually took the time and worked out a supply chain. So it's a multi-level, multi-million-dollar supply chain I worked out. It took me about 2.5 years because at that time, manufacturers were not online. So I had to work it out, found them, and then we launched 2017 from our supply chain. Labor Day weekend, to be exact.
Actually, that's set pretty cool there. And so, and how have you been able to expand the business?
So that came down to marketing, right? Because at first I figured, we were a potato chip company, we're all natural. We'll just go everywhere. But I quickly found out that, hey, our lane, because we were all natural, was more of an upscale lane, because people will pay more money for products that are all natural and good for you. So we're vegan friendly, no MSG, non-GMO, and still all natural. So we started to go, like I said, to a luxury lane or what have you. So that got us into luxury hotels, private airports, private airport lounges, marinas, and also golf courses, which turned into us being the actual official chip for the Masters 2 years in a row.
The name
Symphony. So real simple, Roland. My dad believes that every bite should be harmonious, so we named it the Symphony.
All right, that makes a lot of sense. Questions from the panel. Let's see. Who's the biggest chip eater on here? I think Larry is probably the king of the late night snacks.
I don't do late night snacks, but I love chips. So I'm very interested in what you described. You did a great job of chronicling how this all played out. So my question is, how did you talk about your professional background? How did that help you in terms of launching the potato chip line with your actual background? Were there any commonalities that helped you kind of fill in some gaps and kind of lead you to where you are today?
I would say the biggest thing, because from that baby boom boomer era, which is what my dad is from, there was no trust fund, right? So having that software background allowed me to be my own venture capitalist. So paying for the graphic artist to do the spice bottle, what have you, and then paying graphic artists to get the potato chip bags, and then doing the first run, and then having to go and oversee the runs because I understand the market I'm in, right? So my chips, like I said, are like luxury hotels. So like not just regular Hyatts, but also like the Park Hyatt, for example. So you expect every bite to taste the same. So I actually had to go to the production facilities and actually oversee the actual production to make sure every bite was the same. All 28 herbs and spices showed up on every chip.
Randy, we know she loves food.
I do. I do. And I love some chips. So I see you have multiple flavors now, though. So you've expanded from that original spice that your father created. What is your most popular flavor of chip?
Well, what's interesting is that when we hit the market, we knew we had to be different, right? So we don't have barbecue, we have smoked, right? Yeah. So for you barbecue connoisseurs, we decided to make a smoke flavored chip versus the chip that chases the sauce. When you're a barbecue connoisseur, you want to taste the actual smoke. You want to taste the hickory, the cherry wood, those things that the pit master put in. So then we have smoked. We also have balsamic, and we also have our latest flavor we launched, which is the hibiscus bouquet.
Yeah, I saw that hibiscus. That was very interesting.
Yeah, it actually comes from a black liqueur. A black-owned liqueur company called Sorrel. I actually know the owner. So we're like, what would happen if we paired chips with a liqueur. And we got this wonderful flavor that was just magnificent.
Congratulations.
Mustafa, what you got? Well, actually, we're not in studio because of the weather. Like, matter of fact, it is insane what is happening out there in the streets. In fact, I was just sitting here looking at something, and if you want to understand why we are completely remote, this tells you right here. This is right now the traffic on the 14th Street bridge from Arlington to Washington, D.C. So we ain't getting that mess. We at the crib. So, we at the crib. I told Steph, everybody stay at home. Don't bother to get out in this mess. We can do the show remotely. And so when we get back in the studio, we'll be able to test the chips. Mustafa, go.
Yeah, I was like, when I was looking at that picture, I was like, brother, if you could get those chips to everybody who's stuck in traffic, you would be all right. Brother, I'm curious. So first of all, congratulations. Where is Symphony of moving to over the next couple of years?
So again, because like I said, we're more of a luxury brand. So we found out. So we're moving into like Fortune 500 companies, like moving into their break rooms, for example, and then we're just expanding our footprint into not only hospitals but also the game industry as well. So it's 2026 is going to be a phenomenal year for our company.
Somebody asked on the YouTube chat, would you define these as healthy?
Absolutely, because we don't have any artificial flavors. No additives. Again, it's all natural, vegan friendly, no MSG, non-GMO. And again, it features our 28 herb and spice proprietary blend. So nobody else on the market has our flavors. Nowhere.
All right, then. Folks, if y'all want to get these chips, the Symphony chips, do me a favor, go to shopblackstarnetwork.com. Shopblackstarnetwork.com. You see this here? An orchestra of flavor. Original pack, 12-pack is $52.99. These are premier chips, and so you want to check that out. And so, folks, go to shopblackstarnetwork.com. Shopblackstarnetwork.com. DeAndre, we appreciate it, man. Good luck.
Thank you so much, Roland. It's a pleasure being on your show. And everybody, Symphony chips is out there. Go and get them. They're online right now. Get your bag. Shopblackstarnetwork.com. All right, we appreciate it. Thanks a bunch. Let me thank Larry. Let me thank Randy. Let me thank Mustafa for being on today's show. I certainly appreciate it. Thank you so very much. As I said, y'all stay warm. Well, Larry, your ass in Florida, so we know you warm. So you ain't got to worry about it. But
yeah,
Mustafa
I'm good.
Randy,
yeah, you good. Mustafa and Randy, stay away from the ice and snow. It's causing way too many problems on the East Coast. So we appreciate it. Thanks a lot, folks. That's it for us. We got to go. Do me a favor, y'all. Support us, Bring the Funk Fan Club. Your dollars are critically important for the work that we do. If you want to contribute via Cash App, do so right now using the Stripe QR code. You click the Cash App pay button to contribute. Of course, send check and money orders to make them out to Roland Martin Unfiltered, P.O. Box 57196, Washington, D.C. 20037-0196. PayPal's R Martin Unfiltered, Venmo RM Unfiltered, Zelle Roland at RolandSMartin.com, Roland at RolandMartinUnfiltered.com. Download the Black Star Network app, Apple phone, Android phone, Apple TV, Android TV, Roku, Amazon Fire TV, Samsung Smart TV. If you want to get our Roland Martin Unfiltered Black Star Network swag, go to shopblackstarnetwork.com. Shopblackstarnetwork.com to get our swag. Be sure to check that out. Of course, the Black-owned products that we have, as I say, it's Symphony Chips and others. You can go to shopblackstarnetwork.com as well. When you support those Black-owned companies, you also support this Black-owned company. Folks at Fanbase have raised their $17 million. The Series A round is closed, but download the app, Fanbase. Download the app. Monetize your social media. Get the Fanbase app. Don't forget, check out Brittany Noble, the Breakdown with Brittany Noble every day, tomorrow noon Eastern, right here on the Black Star Network. And Thursday, we will launch the debut of Second Opinion with Dr. Ebony Hilton. That's right. Her show will be airing right here on the Black Star Network every week. It is a weekly health show. It is fantastic. I cannot wait for y'all to see it. So I told y'all, we are working on some stuff. We launched Brittany's show. We're launching a health show. So a whole lot going on, y'all. And we're doing all that we can to inform, to enlighten, to empower entertain you as well. So be sure to go share our content. Be sure to send our clips out. Let people know how to follow us. We're now sitting at, let's see, 1 million. Look at the number, 1,908,297. So we are less than 100,000 away from 2 million subscribers. So if you are watching and you have not subscribed to our YouTube channel, do it right now. Tell your friends, tell your family, subscribe to the YouTube channel. We're ready to hit 2 million. And I checked again this week, and I looked at the YouTube podcast. Let's see, 1 second. 1 second. I just want to show y'all. Listen, we are still doing the work, y'all. And again, this is what we do every single day. And for the week of January 12th through the 18th, let me show you right here. This is the chart. So you see right here. And we look at African Americans on here. Listen, you got in Club Shay Shay at 15, Nightcap at 16. Then when you go up, you've got let's see here. Let's keep going. Joe and Jada this week was at 33. When you go up, the 85 South Boys, they're at 39. You got right winger Devori Darkins at 42. Gilbert Arenas, he's at 45. Then you keep going up, you're going to see Neil deGrasse Tyson at 57. Then when you go up, you're going to see the Joe Budden podcast at 64. Trevor Noah at 66. The Pivot guys at 69. And then Cam Newton came in at 74. The 520, Jeff Teague and those guys, 520 in the morning, they're at 80. And we're right here at 85. And so listen, we're still in the top 100. And the bottom line is this here. We are the only, Roland Martin Unfiltered is the only black owned, first of all, black news show in the top 100. That's critically important. Ain't nobody doing what we're doing, folks. And I say that all the time. It's important. And so we're out here speaking to the issues. Everybody else you're seeing, you're talking about entertainment folks and others. In fact, you go down here, Candace Owens, she snuck in a 100, top 100. She's at 97. But the reality is, when you talk about who's centering African Americans, speaking to our issues, only this show at number 85. And so again, we got to be able to have our voices. And listen, there's no black female on this list. We want to make that happen too. That's what we're building, the content that we're building. So we got the other side of change. We got that show with Bria and Jamira. Of course, we got Ebony's show coming on. We've got Brittany's show coming on. We've got Reverend Dr. Jackie Hood Martin's show. We got Dr. Greg Carr's show. Again, I really want to launch a business show. And so your support is really critical for us being able to do that. Folks, that's it. I'm going to see y'all tomorrow right here. I don't know. I might be at the crib tomorrow. I might be in the studio. We don't know how this weather is. Hopefully the roads are no longer iced in snow. I want to make sure that our staff is safe. And so we want to put anybody in harm's way. So we'll see what happens right here. Roland Martin Unfiltered on the Black Star Network. I'm going to see y'all tomorrow. Holla!